In George R.R. Martin's fantasy drama television series, Game of Thrones, Daenerys Targaryen's character arc is one of the most captivating amongst others. Throughout, she turns from a strong, determined, empathetic, benevolent, and influential queen seeking to bring freedom, goodness, and justice into the world to a totalitarian, tyrannical dictator, a queen of ashes. Her arc is portrayed most prominently in the final season. When Daenerys arrives in the north, she isn't particularly welcomed by the people. Her snow-white costume and white blonde hair also greatly stand out from the chilly, dreary setting of Winterfell. With Sansa Stark, Jon Snow, and Daenerys Targaryen present, there is clearly a clash of rulers.
We need more horses and wagons, if it please, my lady. And my lord. And my queen. Sorry.
And from quite early on, Daenerys already senses that Sansa doesn't like her.
May I ask, how are we meant to feed the greatest army the world has ever seen? While I ensured our stores would last through winter, I didn't account for Dothraki unsullied and 2 full-grown dragons. What do dragons eat, anyway?
Whatever they want.
Sansa's influence and power in the north and the people's steadfast, staunching allegiance and love for her are a concern. It is perceivable that Dany is envious of how devotedly they confide in and obey Sansa and trust her judgment. She wishes she has that kind of influence in Westeros like she did in Essos across the Narrow Sea, since she is supposed to be their queen. The antipathy, aloofness, and hostility Dany is receiving from the north are disquieting.
What about the north? It was taken from us. And we took it back, and we said we'd never bow to anyone else again. What about the north?
This gesture of Daenerys withdrawing her hand from Sansa's, captured intentionally in a close-up shot by the camera, already gives the answer. The North is going to have to bow to her also, or she will make it. Daenerys desires supremacy and is averse to anyone, any house or kingdom that stands in her way and resists her reign.
She's had too many hard experiences not to be suspicious of people, and she sees Dany as possibly a tyrant, as someone who has a lot of power and is seeking to get even more.
But soon comes her biggest political blow.
My name. My real name is Aegon Targaryen.
This knowledge about Jon Snow's true lineage and identity, that he is the son of Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen, makes Daenerys very disconcerted and perturbed, also incredulous. She doesn't want to believe it to be true. All of a sudden, envy, anger, disquiet, and fear are churning within her as she realizes what this means.
If it were true, it would make you the last male heir of House Targaryen. You'd have a claim to the Iron Throne.
Adding to the growing mound of problems, in Episode 3, The Long Night, Dany loses one of her dearest, most beloved friends, Ser Jorah Mormont, during the Great War against the Army of the Dead. Despite his mistakes, Jorah has served and fought steadfastly, true-heartedly, and devotedly by her side. Therefore, his death is incredibly harrowing, heart-rending, and shattering for Daenerys. Dany grows more envious of Jon or Aegon as the season progresses because of the admirable influence, reverence, and esteem he has over his people.
You can say nothing to anyone ever. Never tell them who you really are. Swear your brother and Samwell Tarly to secrecy and tell no one else. Or it will take on a life of its own and you won't be able to control it or what it does to people. No matter how many times you bend the knee. No matter what you swear.
The fact that she doesn't want anybody to know shows how much she loves and covets power and how firmly and dearly she holds on to it. She is consumed by selfish ambition and is willing to deny Jon's true lineage and birthright as the last male heir of House Targaryen if it means preserving her own legacy, power, and what she believes is rightfully hers.
And they're my family. We can live together.
We can. I've just told you how.
During the War Council scene as they plan for the last war, it is perceivable that in light of recent events, Daenerys is feeling very disquieted, bitter, angry, and upset. Her descent into tyranny and madness is becoming furthermore transparent. It is also fueled by her hatred for Cersei.
The longer I leave my enemies alone, the stronger they become.
Daenerys' one and only objective is to see her enemy removed from the Iron Throne. As long as Cersei still sits on it, she feels no rest or peace. Walton sums up her mindset and motivations perfectly. When Dany's brother Viserys dies, she is the only Targaryen left alive, and her ambition to retake Westeros as its rightful queen motivates everything she does. The desire for conquest with Dany is not so much a mode of governance as it is integral to imperialism, in the sense that Dany aspires to spread throughout the world the beliefs she so fervently holds.
We have won the Great War. Now we will win the last war. In all 7 kingdoms, men will live without fear and cruelty, under their rightful queen.
She desires to be queen of the 7 kingdoms and will let nothing stand in her way. Then she is hit with the death of her second dragon, Rhaego. The loss of 2 of her 3 dragons now is devastating, tremendous, and appalling for her, and drives her into a fierce torrent of rage. After her enemies capture Missandei, another one of her most trusted advisors, handmaiden, and closest friends, Daenerys is hell-bent on attacking King's Landing.
This is a mistake.
Cersei needs to be destroyed. But if we attack King's Landing with Drogon and the Unsullied
And the Dothraki, tens of thousands of innocents will die. I beg you, Your Grace, do not destroy the city you came to save. Do not become what you have always struggled to defeat.
Daenerys believes Cersei is the tyrant and she is the liberator, the breaker of chains. But she fails to realize how dangerously she is on the path of becoming a tyrant herself, just like Cersei or worse. Dany doesn't realize that in her heart she may be more like her enemies than she knows, as they all want the same thing, the Iron Throne and to rule the 7 kingdoms. The one goal Daenerys has known all her life has actually become her stumbling block, exacerbated by all of her losses at the hands of her enemies.
Dany is this young queen coming to try to usurp her, and Cersei's not going to give up the throne that easily. She's captured an enemy, and this is how Cersei deals with enemies.
The killing of Missandei drives Daenerys over the edge and utterly inflames her fire and fury. Daenerys' descent into madness escalates almost to a peak and breaking point. The knowledge that the secret of Jon's lineage and true identity has gone out and spread amongst people, including Dany's enemies, breaks her even more acutely. In this scene in episode 5, The Bells, Daenerys' hair is unkempt. Her face looks pallid, gray, distressed, tormented, and tired. The color, setting, and atmosphere in the scene are cold, grim, and bleak, emanating lifelessness, dejection, and despair, and matching Dany's desolation at having been betrayed. She is shattered, dispirited, and seething with cold flames of ire.
She trusts you. She trusted you to spread secrets that could destroy your own queen. And you did not let her down.
It's as if there is no one left around her whom she could truly rely on and trust, no one to steadfastly protect her, who is faithful and loyal by her side. Nearly everyone who is reliable and devoted to her are dead, while those who are still alive either lied to her or betrayed her. She feels totally abandoned and alone.
Doesn't matter now.
And that's a dangerous thing for someone who's got so much power to feel that isolated. So at the very time when she needs guidance and those kind of close friendships and advice the most, everyone's gone.
Far more people in Westeros love you than love me. I don't have love here. I only have fear.
You will always be my queen.
Jon has reassured her this many times throughout the final season. Dany is dubious and unconvinced, however, as if by this point, with everything that's happened to her, the words have lost their comfort, uplift, and meaning. In this moment, even her brother Aegon finds it difficult to deny her spiral towards autocracy and tyranny. That Daenerys is one who is more likely to rule cruelly, arbitrarily, and oppressively, rather than with justice, fairness, righteousness, altruism, and benevolence. The kiss they share is hollow, doubtful, and strained, as if Jon doesn't know what he sees in Dany anymore. He can feel in his heart that she is going down a path that he doesn't share and cannot follow. And Daenerys senses this.
All right, then.
Let it be fear.
She chose violence. A Targaryen choosing violence is a pretty terrifying thing.
When the Lannister army capitulates and they ring the bells, this is Daenerys' sign to call off the attack, as she had agreed with Tyrion. It is the most crucial moment to see what she would do now that the city has surrendered to her. It's her biggest test, whether she would choose mercy over the people she came to rule and save, or power and fear and obliterate everything that is left. Olesker writes that her source of authority is based on both her identity as the daughter of the former Mad King, as a Targaryen, but also to a large extent on the normative order she promises, not to be Queen of the Ashes, but to make the world a better place. However, Daenerys ultimately abandons and betrays those norms, and in this scene transforms into the very thing she's always promised people she won't be, as Varys had predicted. And he was right. She chooses power and fear. With everything Daenerys has gone through, the antipathy, aloofness, and hostility she endured in Westeros, the revelation of Jon's true identity as Aegon being her downfall, the loss of her dearest and closest friends Jorah Mormont, her dragon Rhaegal, and Missandei, the betrayals from those who she thought she could trust, the desolation, bitterness, envy, loneliness, perturbation, and fear she suffered during her time in the North. The blistering, unquenchable flames of hatred and rage towards Cersei for what she's done to her. All these drive Daenerys beyond the brink of judgment, rationality, and sanity. All her pent-up feelings of devastation, fury, bitterness, desolation, and distress are bubbling up in a well within her throughout the course of this final season, and in this moment, she lets it all explode. This is the turning point for Daenerys Targaryen, where she turns full-scale into the very mad queen and totalitarian, tyrannical dictator everyone is fearful of her becoming, where she utterly breaks over the edge.
It's in that moment on the walls of King's Landing when she's looking at that symbol of everything that was taken from her, when she makes the decision to make this personal.
And the war, devastation, annihilation, and slaughter of King's Landing continue. In this scene in the final episode, when Daenerys gives her grand speech before all the remaining forces of her Dothraki and Unsullied after her victory in the last war, the entire mise-en-scène, from the dark blues and raven blacks of Daenerys's and her warriors' armor, and the cold, gray, bleak, wintry colors of the setting, to the tremendous scale of the armies and the action of the Unsullied drumming their spears in unison in response to Daenerys' words. All these create a formidable, intimidating atmosphere that matches Daenerys' conquest. Combined with her steeliness and her resounding voice over the low, foreboding music as she addresses her armies, these augment this to a phenomenal level. Daenerys has conquered the Iron Throne and victory is in her grasp, but she asserts that this is not the end.
In veli basma tetos taor. In vrapa tolvio vio vinrontira derat. Tolvrio pregelat. En winter velva dornat. En laniso valiniot. En Jairo geerot. Avar. Valar. Rinjar. Tole grego vobotis. Grevi in noma pregelat.
In Daenerys' eyes, all other rulers in the world are tyrants, and she is their savior, the breaker of chains. In her eyes and according to her goal, the entire world is hers, and she will subjugate it whatever it takes. All the while being blind to how much of a tyrant and dictator she herself actually is and has become. Everyone else sees it, and they know how alarming and dangerous it can be is she to persist unrestrained and unchecked.
I freed my brother, and you slaughtered a city.
Apparently, Jon's view of a good world and Daenerys' view of a good world are two very different things. A world free from slavery, injustice, and tyranny, built upon mercy, with Daenerys as their totalitarian ruler, is only good in her eyes. Dany wants to build a good and better new world with Jon, the two of them, together.
What about everyone else? All the other people who think they know what's good.
They don't get to choose.
And this is something Jon cannot accept. He can see that Daenerys' totalitarian world will be one of tyranny and injustice, not of righteousness, integrity, and mercy. And that can never be good. That is why Jon makes the last-minute decision with an immensely heavy heart to betray her, even if it hurts and crushes him. Co-executive producer Brian Cockman says of Game of Thrones, "This is the kind of story that's meant to unsettle you and challenge you and make you think and question." Daenerys' death is certainly astonishing, unsettling, and unpredictable. Many of us wouldn't have seen it coming during the midst of such a powerful, promising, and emotional moment between her and Jon. Jon or Aegon's action of killing Dany therefore leads us to contemplate why he did what he did, the consequences of who and what Daenerys will become, and how the future of the world is going to be if she survives. Despite striving for the viewpoints, goals, and beliefs she'd so fervently championed, Daenerys, being a Targaryen, still ultimately lived and stood by the motto of her house, conquering the world in fire and blood.